So today we're going to do the handover video on this VW Leisure Drive. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, if we come over to the driver's door, open this up, you can see you got your steering wheel along with your gear lever. Underneath here you have got a clip here to adjust the steering wheel height, and then just underneath on the side, as you can see here, pull that and that will release the bonnet. So with the bonnet lifted, you can see it gains you access into the front. Now the main things that you need to know underneath here is if you're ever going to jump start the vehicle. If that is the case, your positive terminal, as you can see, just links onto here as indicated by the plus sign, and the negative terminal is just on the other side, again indicated by the minus sign. They're the main things that you need to know, but just to point out a couple more, you can see you've got your washer fluid here along with your engine coolant. You've then got your engine oil with your dipstick below, and up at the top you've got your brake disc fluid along with your power steering fluid, which is just in this container here. Moving to the side of the vehicle, you'll notice that you've got a vent here along with another vent here. This is just simply for the fridge itself, and in essence, obviously when the fridge is running you want to keep this area clear, and what I recommend is if the sun is beating down on this side of the vehicle, if you can, just turn the vehicle away from the sun. Just try and keep this area under shade, because it will just help the fridge work a little bit more efficiently, as this is what is fueling the fridge to then obviously cool it down. This is where it pulls its air from. Never block any of these areas, just keep them nice and open so the fridge can run nice and easy. Underneath here as well, you'll notice that you've got a little black cap, or grey cap rather, that says outlet on there. This is for your wastewater. Now what you can do, you've got two options. You can either use a bucket or you can use something similar to an aqua roll, which will just simply sit underneath here or link up. And that means any wastewater that runs underneath and into your drain, down your plug or your sinkhole, will then flow out here and end up in your bucket, and it won't gather or pool on the outside of the vehicle. You'll then notice that you've got your hookup point for your 230 volt electric. As you can see, that just hooks up onto here, and then when you're on site, this will enable you to have 230 volt on the vehicle itself. Moving around the rear of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your barn doors that open really wide. In the back here, you've got a couple of things. So at the top you've got a little bit of storage. Underneath that you've also got your gas bottle. So your gas bottle just sits into here. We've just taken it out for this video. The gas bottle does sit into here, and then using a pigtail that will connect your gas bottle to your regulator, which is just here, and will allow you to flow the gas through. Now please ensure that when you're traveling your gas is turned off at all times, but then of course when you're stationary you can then turn that gas bottle on, and it simply just screws on at the bottle. Underneath you've then got your fresh water tank. As you can see, this is really nice and handy for just removing it out of the vehicle and simply filling it up. Say for example you're on site, you can just fill it up at your tap and then stick it back in the vehicle, and it just sits down here. I'll just pull this out just for the time being, because you will also notice that you have got this pipe here, and it's got a blue attachment to the end. This is for your pump. This is the vehicle's water pump. So once you've got this filled up with water, you can then take this off, screw it off. You can buy attachments which will actually fit onto this as well, but this will work perfectly fine if you just remove this lid, and then this blue tap, or this blue pump rather, will just fit and sit into the side of the tank. And then when you turn your pump on and turn your taps on, which I'll show you how to do later, that will just pull the water through and out of your tap. Moving to the back, you've also got a little bit of a seat here, which can obviously turn into the bed, but it also offers a little bit of seating at the back. And then underneath there, you've got a really good bit of storage. There's obviously your carpets in there, some wheel chocks, some various things, silver screens. We'll leave that all in the vehicle for you, but you can see that just neatly sits underneath into there. You'll also notice whilst I'm back here, you have got some blackout blinds. Now you've got blackout blinds on the rear, the side windows, and also the front windows as well into the cab, which will allow you to obviously black out the entire cab nice and easily. Okie dokie, moving on to the inside of the vehicle. One thing I will say just before moving on, this vehicle hasn't been valeted yet. I'm just trying to get this video out to you before you collect. So if you do notice anything, just look past that for the time being. As I say, I just wanted to get this video out to you before you collect. Now, on the inside of the vehicle, you'll notice that you've got your fridge. On your fridge, this is a three-way system. It's by Dometic, so that means there's 3 ways to power it. You can either run it off hook up, which obviously we're hooked up at the moment, so you can just simply flick it to hook up there. You can then either run it off your 12-volt leisure battery, or you can run it off your gas. So depending on your situation. Now, when you're stationary and you're on site, you'll obviously run it off your 230-volt electric hookup point, and that will feed the fridge with obviously 230-volt power. If you are travelling, you can then run the fridge off 12-volt, as when you're travelling. That will then the vehicle battery will then send power to the leisure battery, which will then allow you to run the fridge. And then of course when you are wild camping, you can then run it off your gas symbol here. Now a lot of people do ask the question and expect the fridge to run off your 12-volt leisure battery when you're not moving. That isn't the case. It will simply just sap all the power from the leisure battery. As you can imagine, it does, you know, take quite a bit of power, the fridge. So with that in mind, please only run the fridge off your gas when you're wild camping, and then when you're stationary on site, run it off your 230-volt. The only time you'll run it off your 12-volt is of course when you are travelling. On the other side, you've then got a little dial here. So this is used to obviously adjust the temperature on the fridge. Everyone will obviously want it at the lowest temperature. And next to that, if you are running this off gas, you've got a little igniter switch here. Just simply push that in, and that will try to ignite and start igniting the fridge to obviously run it off the gas. Now, what I recommend with the fridges is it tends to be the type of thing that it works very, very well at maintaining the temperature, but obviously because it's not as powerful as a normal fridge or a domestic fridge, it won't get it down to temperature as quickly. So what I recommend is if you're putting, if you want cold things to be in the fridge, just put cold things in there. It will just do a really good job at maintaining the temperature. As you can see, that's your fridge open, and in here is a little freezer box. The same thing with that really as well. If you want frozen things to be in your freezer, put frozen things in there. It will just help maintain the temperature. And then you've got a little lock on here, just like so, which will lock it into place for travel. Okie dokie, so moving above the fridge, you've then got your cooking and also your cleaning facilities, your sink. So firstly, for your hobs, you've got 2 gas burner hobs. Obviously they'll only work off the gas, so make sure your gas is turned on for when you are using them. You've got these little dials here, just simply hold them in, you'll hear it trying to ignite, and then you can feed the gas through. Obviously I've not got gas hooked up at the moment, so that's not going to do anything, but as I say, get the gas in, push this down, turn it, and let that ignite. You'll notice there's 2 blow-off valves on the gas valve on the gas rings. So obviously, if you let go of that, it will blow it out straight away for safety. So when you have got it lit, you do need to hold it in for a couple of seconds just to allow it to obviously burn, and then you can let go, and then your gas hobs will be ready to use. On the other side, you'll then notice that you've got your tap. To use this tap, you'll need your pump on. Now your pump is located on your control panel there, which we'll get onto shortly. But turn your pump on, let that water flow through by simply pressing, obviously turning your tap on, and that will spurt and splutter, and then it will start to come out steadily, and then you've primed your system for your fresh water. Now please ensure that the pump is only on when you've got fresh water in the vehicle. That's the reason I've turned it off, because we've no fresh water. If I was to leave that pump on, you do run the risk of burning the pump out. So please ensure that when you are using it, you've got fresh water in the actual tank itself, and then that way it will just avoid it from, of course, burning out. Next up, below that, you've got two compartments here with a bit of storage, and this is your cutlery drawer, as you can see. So again, a nice bit of storage in there. Underneath that, you have got your grill. Of course, this will again run off purely gas. You've got a light in here, and you've got an igniter switch here. Depending on, obviously, when you turn it on, that will activate, and that will, of course, allow you to run your grill. Underneath that, you have got space for a porta potty, as you can see. Now, if you wanted to, if you were just gonna, go on site, you could remove this and use this as a bit of storage, but your porta potty is just located into here. When it comes to emptying that, you'll have a point on the site where you can simply dispose of the waste. So with your porta potty out, you've got this little lock on the top here, so that will lock the lid for when you're obviously travelling, and when you come to obviously empty it. But to open it, slide that across, and that will allow you to use the porta potty. When in use, please open the blade on the toilet. The blade is this here. Simply pull that out, and what that does is it will open up the blade to the lower cassette, and that's where all the waste will drop into. So when in use, simply pull that towards you, clip that into place like so. That will open up that blade so any waste can drop into the cassette. Once you've done that, you'll then notice on the back you've got a little button here. Click that. You may have heard that, just releases a bit of water, and that will obviously flush the tank. On the other side, you've also got a point here which you can remove. You've put some water in there to obviously allow for the flush, and then once you have done, you just simply press that back into position like so, and that will close the blade, just to stop any smells or any odours or anything obviously coming through. Now, to empty it, all you need to do is simply take this top half. This top half actually disconnects, which I'll do for you now. And as you can see, all you need to do now is simply slide out the funnel, remove the cap, and using this this button here, click that in, and that will release an internal vacuum on the inside of the cassette and will allow you to empty it. This is really just used for for as we would say, number ones, but it's there if you desperately need it. And as I say, that just simply disconnects, and then you can then, as I mentioned previously, find a point on the site where you can dispose of the waste. So moving on, you've then got your table, which just stores at the side of the seats here, and as you can see, you've got this metal bar that'll simply connect onto there just to give you a bit of a dining space. And as you can see, with that pulled out at the side, flip the leg down just to give it some support, and that will just then clip onto this metal rail here. So it gives you a nice bit of worktop space, as well as I say, a dining area for when you need it. Now moving to the back of the vehicle, obviously we're then into your lounge. Just thought it was worth mentioning you have got a bit more storage underneath here as well, for when you need it. And then above here is of course your travelling seats with your seat belts. They're just tucked underneath at the moment. So next up, going into your control panel and also your wardrobe, you'll notice you've got two 230 volt sockets here. Please note that these will only work when you are hooked up to mains electric. So when you're on site with your 230 volt charger in the side of the vehicle, that will then allow you to use your 230 volt. When you're not, they won't work because it'll run off your 12 volt leisure battery. In the back here, you've got a small mirror, as well as a really good bit of storage. Nice bit of hanging space there, and that drops down into this area. You've got two little shelves here, along with your RCD breaker, which is just tucked into the corner, as you can see. Just like so. So if the vehicle ever trips, you just need to come to this point, and you can simply, obviously, easily access your RCD breaker. On the back, we've then got your control panel. So we've got two options. You can run the control panel or your lighting and then everything off your leisure battery or your vehicle battery. Always run it off your leisure battery. You don't want it to take power from your vehicle battery, as that will simply pull obviously all the battery's power, and you could potentially be left in a scenario where you can't get it started and you'll therefore need a jump start, which obviously you want to avoid. So with that in mind, just turn that to leisure and then you'll be good to go. Next to that, you've then got your button for your lights. Click that on. They're on at the moment, but as you can see, flick it up to turn them on. Next to that, you've then got your pump that I've discussed, so please ensure that this is turned on only when you've got water in the vehicle. Simply click that up and that will activate your water and it'll allow you to pull it through. And then at the back here, if I flick that on, this says aux. This will enable your USB sockets. So these here, as you can see, you're getting a feed to work in essence. So when you're charging your phone, they would simply connect into there. Now before I show you the rock and roll bed that we've got here, you've got a pop top roof on this vehicle. You'll notice that you've got your blinds here as well. They do attach and roll onto there, and they'll allow you to black out obviously this area when you are sleeping in the vehicle. Now during transit, of course, this needs to be down, so simply pull this handle, pull that into you, and that will drop it down to this level here. You'll notice you've got this little tab here. It is easier to do it with two hands because you can pull this down and then tuck this in and pull this towards you. Obviously not with any great force, but just simply hold that in, as when this slots down you can then pull this towards you and it will neatly fold inwards. You don't want any of this fabric to be stuck on the outside, as that's when it leads to obviously to get damaged, and it'll also lead to mould and rot if it is left out in the elements for a long period of time. So please make sure. Once this is down as well, you'll notice there's these two little metal points here, fixing points. You'll also notice you've got two down here with two little ratchet straps on there. So once this is down, we recommend you need to ratchet that into position, and that will just secure the roof for when you are travelling. Right, so moving on to the final part of the handover video, you'll notice that you've got your rock and roll bed, which is at the back here. To operate this, you need to remove this seat, and then underneath there you'll have a metal clip, which I'll show you now. As you can see, your metal clip is just here. Simply pull that and that will release the bed. Before doing that, remove these headrests. These simply slot off like so. And once you're at this point, you can then pull this clip, and this will allow you to slide the bed towards you, which I'll do for you now. Now once you've done that, as you can see, that slides across to the front here. It may be worth taking that back cushion off, because that can get caught as the back rests fall flat, so you may want to remove that before you do this, just to make it a little bit easier, and then you can simply slot it back in like that. And as you can see, that's your bed. You've then got this piece of foam here, which will then slot back at the front here, and just like that, as you can see, with that slotted into position, makes for a really nice sized bed. What I do recommend is just if you use a mattress topper, that will just slot onto here, and it will just take the bumps out of obviously the cushions, because obviously these have got contours in them. So if you get a mattress topper just to sit onto here, it will just take them bumps out and make it nice and flat. Now when you are moving the bed back into position, you'll notice that you've got this little piece of rope here, which you can simply pull. That will lift the backrests up and it will slide the front in. It may take two hands just to do, hence why it's a little bit difficult to show you on the video. But all you'll need to do is simply pull that, press that in, and the backrest will raise, and the entire bed will then slide back. Once you're at this point, you can then pop your cushions back on and you're good to go. Now that concludes the handover video on this VW Leisure Drive. I hope you enjoyed.